Kirk Cousins, right? The quarterback musical chairs have been filled to a large extent. Kirk Cousins still not in one. What I've been told on Kirk Cousins is he plans to be patient, wait out the market, see if other situations come up that are more favorable. He does want to play, and I think he believes he'll find a landing spot at some point. But in this early wave of free agency, it didn't seem to work out for him to find a place where he could have a clear path to starting. Maybe if things fall apart with Aaron Rodgers and Pittsburgh, that becomes a consideration. A reunion in San Francisco. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw got hurt in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, went to Denver, played this past year, got released by the Broncos. He re-signs with the 49ers to help out that defense that was so injury-riddled last year. Niners bringing back an old friend, familiar face that has helped them have success before as they try and get back into things in the NFC Super Bowl contender race. And then Maxx Crosby back in Las Vegas after the trade to Baltimore. Fell apart after the Ravens backed out over medical concerns. Raiders are hearing from teams about Maxx Crosby, but as you might expect, teams are trying to take advantage of the situation and not offering what the Raiders want in return. So the plan, as I understand it, is to wait this out. Maybe Maxx Crosby gets a little bit healthier later in the summer. Maybe they re-engage teams on trade talks at some point later this year. But it's also possible he's on the team in 2026.
Hey, there's another video on Instagram from Crosby. I'm not rolling my eyes. It's been a traumatic week for the guy, but he's back with the Raiders. He says, I'm going to be a Raider. Damian Woody, can he go back to the Raiders? Can we just suit this thing up and pretend like none of this happened?
No, I don't think. No, absolutely not. You know how much your ego is struck down, getting traded away to another team, and then all of a sudden it falls through because of your physical. Like, a team gave you away. They traded you away. They told you, we don't want you anymore. Like, you're not part of our future. And that, to me, is where it all falls. Like, Maxx Crosby's timeline and the Raiders' timeline, they're totally different. This thing should be all about Fernando Mendoza. How are you going to build around the presumptive number 1 overall pick? And that means taking an asset like Maxx Crosby and dealing them away, whether it's now, whether it's before the draft, during the summer, but at some point, they need to deal him away and focus on their future out there.
But the value, like at 2 first-round picks, yes, but at 60 cents on the dollar?
No, and by the way, the impetus for the trade was Maxx letting them know that he didn't want to be there anymore after the way last season ended. So if he has changed his mind on that, then I think that's a bigger deal, and it probably helps him fit back into the locker room. And if he's okay with the situation as is, then I think it can work. I think it would help Fernando Mendoza to have a player like Maxx Crosby on his defense, right? I mean, like if he's healthy and playing at the top level of his game and he wants to be a Raider, then I think, it's conceivable that he could have him on this team.
This situation is, I would say, unprecedented when you're talking about 2 first-round picks and the long lagway before it got pulled. Mike T, like if you're the Raiders, if you're John Spytek, are you still taking calls and considering about wheeling and dealing, even after the Instagram and the post of I'm here, I'm a Raider for life, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, absolutely, because by the time Fernando Mendoza is going to be good, Maxx Crosby may be 2 or 3 years further down the road. So I have an ideal solution for this. Matt, can I have B19, please?
Oh, Cindy, what do we got?
No, it's Matt. Yeah, B19. So look, a trade is a contract between Team A and Team B. So Bills, Buccaneers, trade for a second-round pick this year. No physical, by the way. And then next year, you get a second-round pick. But if he plays 70% or more of the snaps this season, that too goes to a 1. Who says no to that? If you're Buffalo or Tampa, you may get a great pass rusher for 2 2s. And if you're the Raiders, it's not 2 1s, but it could be a second-round pick and a first-round pick, and you're cutting your losses. And I'll tell you this, guys, just from a team-building standpoint, not knowing if you have $30 million on your books is hugely consequential. That's 10% of your budget. So if I'm John Spytek, if I'm Clint Kubiak, guys, I want to know ASAP, is he in or out? And that's why if you make a trade with these sort of conditions where you're protecting the Raiders' upside if he plays, I think is a fair resolution.
If you find out from him that he still wants out, that's fine, but you got to make sure you keep it quiet, right? Because you got 2 1s for the guy literally a week ago. And now you're talking about 2 2s? I just don't see how, like, if you're the Raiders, isn't the smarter play to wait a little bit, especially if it's not going to be trouble in the meantime?
Yeah, Dan, I totally get that, but I would just tell you from sitting in that seat, if you're sitting there every day running scenarios, which most teams do, 30 million in, 30 million out, I want to have some certainty, and I understand there's going to be a lot of concerns now about the knee, and that's why I'm saying, like for example, when we traded for Brett Favre, there were conditions in that trade depending on how well he played and we played. the pick could go up because we didn't get into August. So I think it's a good way to sort of put a ribbon on a tough situation.
And D-Wood, can I say, like, you look at you add Maxx Crosby, Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, like, they got kind of good this week. And when you add Crosby, maybe they're not the same downtrodden team they were when he was asking for a trade all offseason. What do you think of that?
I still think they're fourth in the division. At the end of the day, even with all the moves, and I like a lot of the moves that the Raiders have made, I still think they're fourth. And that's why I think the timelines of Maxx Crosby and the Raiders don't match up, and you'll be better off to get the assets to build around the young quarterback.
If we have learned anything this week, stay tuned. We will have the latest. This story is probably not done. Coming up.
To start or to compete for the starting job?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most transformational transactions we'll see in 5 years. I think he'll start. I think they'll win the division. And on a $300 million cap, guys, for Kyler Murray to play for $1.3 million at 29 years old, it's like, what's that expression? It's like finding a loose change in your couch. Like, they're getting him for nothing. And if I'm Kyler Murray, that is such a great place to go to be developed. And I think they're going to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there is clearly going to be lofty expectations for Kevin O'Connell, but right now, the reputation does not match the playoff resume. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, Mr. T, how much runway do you continue to give a head coach that has had a revolving door at quarterback, a fourth different starting quarterback in as many seasons?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Kevin's. He was with us at the Jets. So was Cliff Kingsbury in our injured reserve coaching development quarterback program. And look, I think they're going to be really good. They have had a number of quarterbacks. I'm not sure all that's his fault, but I am a believer in him and that team and what they can do offensively, what Brian Flores can do defensively. I think they can put it all together. And arguably Justin Jefferson is maybe the best receiver in the game.
What's the biggest hurdle as you see it for them putting it all together?
Yeah, well, look, running back is certainly a question mark right now. And then, do they keep Jonathan Grenard? That's going to be a big question. Can they replace, Harrison Smith at safety? To me, those are the question marks.
So you said you think that they're going to win the division now that Kyler Murray is there. Is that an indictment on the Bears and the Packers in any way? Because you're saying that you think the Bears, who are kind of the darlings coming out of last year's season, and the Packers, who a lot of people expect to always consistently be in that conversation. I know last year you said you thought Jordan Love could be the MVP.
We do love Love.
We love Love. You and I both love Love. So what is it about the Vikings that puts you in a position where you think that they could be better than the Bears and the Packers?
Well, first of all, I think the Bears could be better next year and have a worse record. They had so many improbable wins. Like, when you study the data over 10, 20, 30 years, it's hard to replicate that year in, year out. And I think, Green Bay should be really good, but, they lost Jeff Hafley, right? They lost Rashawn Gary. Is Micah Parsons going to be the same guy in year one? Romeo Doubs was a good player. So I think they're going to still be really good. But I just think, you look at Minnesota guys, they won 9 games, and last year, J.J. McCarthy threw 11